Yeah, man, that was good. That was
So,
very
and it was good seeing him. I am so glad that we were born when we were born. We were able to see that in person,
yeah.
not have to watch it on video. We
Yeah,
were.
and let's be honest. Kids, young teenagers now that are watching what's on TV now in 20 years, they're not going to remember any of these people.
That's and that's the sad part. That's the sad part. Of course, Magnum talked about it too. Not going to those towns and making getting that relationship with people.
Sorry, Richard. Sorry, we were
We
talking to Mac.
with Magnum.
Which
And
he is going to try to come back with us, Richard. So
Yes.
it's worth the delay.
Yeah, it was great. And think about it. He saw two big pop of territories in a row.
Yeah.
He was right in the middle of two big ones right in a row. And was over. I mean, and basically the top guy in both of them. Really. I mean, especially when
he was over big time in Mid-South.
And when Junkyard Dog was gone, he was it. I mean, he basically was it, even though they desperately try to find the next Junkyard Dog. And of course, then after Magnum was gone, they desperately to try to find another one of him. And the Rock and Roll was gone, and they desperately tried. That's deluded as all get out.
Anyway. It was actually crazy is what it was.
Yeah, when you had them right there, and then they leave, and then you try to find the next one. And not somebody different. You're trying to find somebody exactly like them. It doesn't work.
No.
And just like he was saying, it wouldn't have worked. And doing wrestling too and Magnum TA at Jim Crockett Promotions wouldn't have worked either. It would have worked in Mid-South, but it would not have worked in the Carolinas, I don't think.
No, I don't think.
Because two had been gone off the show too long, and they hadn't seen that history and that storyline and that build up on those months building up to two and TA can't be duplicated. You can't just redo that again. It's not possible. It's just like, trying to do Rock and Roll Express to midnight after the Rock and Roll had left after that first time. It wasn't going to happen. When they came back, it never really worked.
Victor Nash is here. How you doing, Victor? Let's see. Michael Barr, when old school wrestling in the territories was on local TV, did it help the station's ratings? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And could it do in this day and time? Yes, it could. It could. But the product's got to be different. It can't. I think the problem is my personal opinion. Vince sets the standard, and everybody just follows his standard, and that's the reason when people say, "Well, he's out of touch." Well, if he's so out of touch, me and Rodney's talked about this. If he's so out of touch, then why are they doing the same thing he's doing? Yeah. He's not out of touch because he's successful.
And everybody's trying to copy that, trying to tap into his audience when there's a bigger audience that's out there that could be accessed. And you do that by creating your own niche, just like Paul Heyman did. He created his own niche, but you need one, more broad range. I wouldn't have took anybody to see ECW. I'll just tell you right now.
Well, for those folks who are joined us right here, the supporter, we are very close, folks. Old school retro wrestling show, that close to finalizing it. So everybody will tell everybody first, the supporters first, before what we've got going on. But I've been doing a lot of talking, a lot of negotiations. We're that close to getting it done. So Victor says, how are you doing? Oh, wait a minute. That's Richard Hood talking to him. How you doing? And let's see. Did Magnum ever tell you guys exactly what happened, the car accident that forced him to retire? He has told that story before.
And there's just some things I know I don't feel comfortable touching on. I know that was a traumatic time in his life. And, wrestling questions are one thing, but personal stuff's another.
Yeah, that was kind of that. I'd be afraid. Now, he has answered that question though. On another video that I watched, he did talk about that. He did talk about the accident, and he just said that he wasn't really speeding. He was going like 55 and a 45. He said it was raining. And he said the next thing you know, he skids and hits. I guess he hit a pole, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Barr said, "What's going to take place today? You all did not say last week. Well, we don't. We were. Hey, that was what you call a cliffhanger, there, Michael. You have to wait for the cliffhangers. Y'all are so used to WWE now, just giving it to you in 1 week,
trying to milk it,
and we're trying to milk that up. It may happen before 2022. It may. And you know, I just tell you this: the only thing that I would be afraid of is them going all at once. Said, oh, by the way, you can't have this many people in the building. Well, then you've got X amount of dollars that you need to try to recoup your you know, not that you're trying to do it for money anyways, but you certainly don't want to lose it. You know, if you can keep from it.
Well, we're facing that right now with Russell South. I mean, we're going in this building, you know, with anticipation initially that it would seat 1,000 people, and they've come in and told us they're cutting us off at just under 600.
Wow.
So, you know,
so you never.
We're still going for it, but you know, that was kind of a knock in the knees.
Yeah, and that's what I did not want to work. That's the reason when we say
we've had
2022. That's the reason that
and
I said that, because I figured by then, hopefully, this thing's over. If not, I don't know what we're going to do.
And the thing about it is, we know from experience, we've had 2 false starts basically in a row where the government's come in and pulled the rug out from under us. We had it happen in Cleveland. We had it happen in Chattanooga. And government doesn't care about you. They act like they do. They could care less.
No, we got messed around so badly twice. I mean, and lost a lot of money and revenue in that respect.
I can tell you supporters about a Waffle House after show dinner one night that there were 4 people sitting at that table that was so mad we couldn't see straight.
It was not good. I mean, you know what was so sad about when we went to Chattanooga, and a lot of you probably have seen it. It's called United Wrestling, and we had the date signed. I think we did the first one in February 1996. So we had March, April, May, June for monthly shows, and then from July on we had every other week, and then by the time October come, we had every week. And that's how we had the Memorial Auditorium, Chattanooga, Tennessee. We had it booked. We had to get the first night. They tell us we can't have it again. And this was before the show even started.
And had a massive crowd that night too.
Yeah,
massive crowd.
You know, and then we go to after. I think it was after what we go to a place. Yeah. It was called the Xanadu Arena in Cleveland, Tennessee. Yep. We put our cousins, which is the ones that owned the building, or didn't own it, they leased it. They put a firewall up and put ramps down and exit signs, everything they told us to do. And they came to us a couple of days before the show and said, oh, by the way, this needed to be architected up. This is not going to work for y'all. Y'all can have 3 shows in here. And it had 3 great shows, by the way. Good houses, good, you know, we wasn't selling out, but I think we would have been there. And then we moved to McDonald, Tennessee, where only the people live here knows where it's at.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. Yeah.
And nothing's changed. There's probably been 20 promotions in there and nobody's found the building.
And that situation in Cleveland was, we thought we were going through the proper process. We brought the fire marshal in. We brought the powers that be there down there. And then come up to us, oh, by the way, you're only get to have 3 shows. Why have 1 show then?
We purchased the ring, and to this, I don't remember who
chairs
we purchased it from. I can't remember who we purchased it, but the chairs we bought from Burt Prentice.
Yeah, we painted them.
But I'm not for sure who we bought the ring from. Might have been Ted Allen. I can't remember. I just remember buying the ring, and we had it set in that building. We took even the time to take away what did them things called, the drop ceiling
the tiles and the
tiles. We took them away, cut them away so people could
get a ring light
to the top rope, put a ring light in. Did all this stuff, and we would have never done it if we knew we were going to have to be there 3 days.
And it was tremendous atmospher. Just perfect for wrestling.
Yeah, had to do that because me and Jimmy Golden and all us tall guys were in that ring.
That's right.
Let's see. Victor Nash said, "I meant as far as his injuries was concerned, because Flair returned after a plane crash." Yeah, I don't. I don't think they've said that Flair broke his back, but I don't believe he ever broke his back. I think he not to the extent of Johnny Valentine and everybody else. I think he was probably the least hurt. Tim Woods was the least hurt, I believe, and then David Crockett. And then whatever, I'm going to tell you what, we told that story. If y'all have not seen it, we told that story. That story make you cry a little bit. It really would. I don't know that I could, I think that would live with me all the time if I'd had a plane crash. Tim Woods, David Crockett also get messed in that plane crash. But Tim Woods I think he actually wrestled, maybe not that night, but the very next night, I believe he wrestled.
He did.
The powers that be Rodney sounds like they're not concerned.
Nope.
Never.
Not.
I don't care.
Nope. We got right in the middle of the politicians, and
ain't
still to this day,
changed.
they don't. And they don't like to see me coming. They see me coming, they know something's about to happen.
A lot of times we did not cause people grief. When it happened in Cleveland, we were asked not to do anything by our cousins because they was afraid they were doing business in Cleveland and they didn't want us causing no trouble. When we were in Chattanooga, David what was his name?
Johnson, I believe.
David Johnson was his name at the. He asked us not to make a big deal out of it, just let it go. That he would be fired if things, and so we didn't do it because of that. But man, we should have.
Yeah, city council. That was a city council member that caused the problem at the auditorium in Chattanooga.
Yes,
which is as far as I'm concerned, the proudest moment that I've ever had is when we got to promote that show there. Just awesome.
Jack, is that a sure part of your Pro Wrestling Inside Out or Pro Wrestling Tees?
No, but we may be opening a Wrestle South store up at some point. Y'all got to help me get the viewership up or the likes on Wrestle South on our Facebook page, because you have to have 10,000 followers, and we're only closing in on 3,000 right now. So we got to have 10,000 before Pro Wrestling Tees will put us on without charging us an arm and a leg to get on there.
And we don't need to charge no arms and legs. Maybe a back or two, but not an arm.
I'd give my back up in a heartbeat.
All right, guys, y'all ready to Jack to do this Gus Americas, however you say that guy's last name?
Yeah, leave it to me, right? Schoenlein.
Yeah, I did. These ain't long deals, though, I've noticed. So I couldn't find too much information on either one of these guys, really. Let's which one are you going to do first, Gus?
That one, Gus, yeah.
Because he's the third champion, right?
Americas.
Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World Champion Series. We're at the third World Heavyweight Champion, and that would be Gus Americas. How do you say this guy's last name, Jack?
Schoenlein.
All right. Well, Jack's going to read all about this one since I can't even say the guy's name. Jack?
All right. When Frank got retired from wrestling, he wrote to a reporter at the New York Times on January 28, 1914. He began by announcing his retirement and stating, "Please announce positively that I am through with wrestling forever. My wife and myself have gone over the matter thoroughly, and nothing will induce me to change my mind. The call of the foreigners and the offer of the big New York purses, $25,000 for 3 bouts, will never make me leave my farm again. I would suggest that Fred Beal and Americus, which was the stage name for Gus Schoenlein, get together and let the winner of that match defend the world title. I am willingly waiving my rights to the title in favor of the winner of the Beal Americas match." Americus was born December 25th, 1883 in Baltimore, and surprisingly made his professional debut at the age of 17 in 1901 after studying architectural drawing at the Maryland Institute. Having a nickname worthy of a modern day superhero and possibly even an arrogant American supervillain, August Gus John Schoenlein has a unique story that needs to be heard. He was called America's, seemingly the first wrestler to go by just one name. The Washington Times wrote a story on Gus on April the 8th, 1906. And here is what the article said about Gus. America's, the local light heavyweight wrestling champion, had a little difficulty in downing Jim Parr, the Englishman, in 2 straight falls tonight at the Baltimore Athletic Club. That he had very little difficulty, at which Americas is the wrestling instructor. The men wrestled for a purse, and the exhibition was exclusively for club members. Although Parr had a few pounds at the advantage in weight, Americas had the call on height and incidentally in age. Only on one occasion was the Baltimorean in danger, but only that for a short time, and he was free before the club members realized how close their favorite had been to the mat. Schoenlein won the world light heavyweight title from Fred Beal in April of 1908. Americas was surprised he won so easily. Beal was said to be not in the best of form because his wife had been ill. He also won the World Heavyweight Championship on March 13th, 1914, from the very same Fred Beal after they had the match that Frank Gotch had suggested. Gotch handpicked the 2 most worthy combatants, in his opinion, to fight for the title he retired with. Americas held the title for only about 2 months and then lost it officially on May 7th, 1914, to the Polish strongman Stanislaus Zbyszko, who promptly took his new achievement and left the USA until 1921. In 1915, Schoenlein ran for a position as Baltimore City building inspector by saying, "Why shouldn't I? I have been a builder longer than I have been in the wrestling game, and I feel fully qualified in every respect to fill the position with honor to myself. When I left school, I followed my trade, despite the fact that I also became interested in wrestling. I would work for a while and wrestle for a while, but I never let my wrestling interfere with my building operations. I am now 32 years old and have been a builder for a good many years." After his retirement from professional wrestling, Americas coached Princeton's wrestling team in the 1920s, and at his passing in 1958, his wrestling gear was displayed in the window at the Pratt Library downtown. His obituary in the Baltimore Sun said just about all that could want to be said. Perhaps the nicest thing August J. Schoenlein, the retired contractor who brought fame to his city a couple of generations ago, is that when he stopped wrestling, he settled down to a useful, quiet, unassuming life, a typical, useful Baltimorean. Gus, America's Schoenlein, the most forgotten world champion. And next, we will look at Stanislaus Zbyszko.
Very interesting story on America's. You know, Sting thought he was the first guy that was just a one-name wrestler.
Sting thought he was many things. An actor is not one of them.
Text from Kenneth.
But yes.
Text from Kenneth.
Somebody just asked you to call him. I just noticed.
No, there's a text. The question is, I'm just going to tell you, Gotch did not want to do the job. Simple as that. It doesn't matter how much they paid him. He wasn't going to do it.
Frank Beal, by the way, come up and he invented the Bill.
The Bill toss certainly was. That is the hip toss out of the corner.
He came up with that. It was very interesting that that Gus actually went against Fred Beal and won the light heavyweight championship, and was the same guy that he ends up winning the world heavyweight title with. That's a very interesting story. And he only held the title for about 2 months. Kind of wonder if he just wasn't drawing houses.
I bet you that's exactly what it was. You know, there's something also to be said, though, about the continuity of the title. I was joking earlier about that, but Gotch did do the wrong thing by not dropping it, because it ends the credibility of the title without him doing the official passing of the torch. It was not the right thing to do. Because
George Hackensmith did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped the title to Gotch. So we'll look at Zbyszko on the next on a World Championship Series. If you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page and go one step further. Hit that notification bell and share the video. Let everyone know we're going to go through all the world heavyweight champions. Now, were there a few world champions before the first? There were a few, but no one that the media, the actual newspapers, would say was the world heavyweight wrestling champion. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. Even back then, nobody wanted to do the job.
That's exactly what that was about. That was exactly what that was about.
Let's see here. Michael asked a question, Jack. He said, Jack, what was the just FYI you posted today about?
That was to the wrestlers and promoters in the state of Alabama, because the athletic commission, once again, has a wild hair and wants to mess with everybody. And so I was given a heads up to
that. Richard asked Victor, do you live in Miami? He just wanted to know if you live in Miami. Michael Barr, I have heard many wrestlers over years say they were through with the business just to come back as a promoter or open up a training school and then come back with a promotion. Well, we've all said that. I won't be honest. Let me go. I don't know how many times I said, geez, I ain't never doing it again. I ain't never going to do it again. And then years later, you do it again. Now, I will say that it took me from 2008 until 2019 to ever want to do anything again in wrestling. But, you know, I would love to see my next 12 years, 13, 14 years. I'd like to see it end the way it begun. Yeah. I would love to see that. That's what that is the goal. Now, I'm not going to do something stupid. You know, there's not going to be nothing stupid then. I've done the stupid things. I think at least I'm old enough to understand not to do the stupid things. At least try not to do them. But I would love to see it end that way. I would love to see me retire and say, okay, this is what I did. This is what we accomplished in 12 years, and hopefully take whatever knowledge that we have and give it to someone else and say, okay, now there you go. We give you the knowledge, now go with it and do the best you can with it. I mean, it has changed. The wrestling business has changed. It's not the same as it was. I think the core principles are the same. The storytelling is still the same. That's what's Brent.
Well, and to expound on that, Michael, there's been a lot of people that come up to me and said, I'm quitting this business, to which my response was, good. That's like the ones who come up and ask me my opinion of their promotion of their match, and my response a lot of times will be, "Well, I'm just glad it's over."
Brent, Jack, and Rodney, I watched YouTube yesterday afternoon, and I watched Mid-South Wrestling, and I'll deal at the talent that came through the promotions. Oh man, tremendous amount of wrestlers come through there.
It was a hard territory, hard one to work for.
In 1984, I think 600 wrestlers came through there. I'm not for sure.
But man, you learned your trade there.
Yeah, it was a good territory. It was a good territory. Boy, it was them trips were brutal. Can anyone find Rock Hunter? I think he's like Waldo. It's
Yeah.
hard to find. I don't even know. Is he still alive?
I don't know.
And by the way, Jack, Richard Hood laughed out loud. All right, we ready to do the let's see, Robert Grice. Let's see what he has to say. Brent, you're on target with wanting to finish well and pass the torch to the next generation. I think before you can pass along knowledge, you must first nurture an appreciation for the knowledge. Yes. I agree with that. I think you need to know, we wasn't around when Lou Thesz was the world heavyweight champion. We wasn't around when he was there, but we know who he was and what he accomplished in the wrestling business. I think people need to know that and know what did it take for them to get there. Billy Graham, if you've never watched his deal, Rodney, and you've watched it, I think, Rodney.
I have.
Tremendous. That should be for any wrestler trying want to be a wrestler to see his progression of where he went to. It's just incredible. Not to want to see where and yes, there have been wrestlers that messed up their lives and just were talented. Chris Adams being one of the main ones. I always thought that was pretty sad what happened to Chris Adams, but he was tremendous. And look what he did. All at once, something just fell off of here. I don't know if everybody left at once or I don't know, man. Did I bore them that bad? All right, y'all ready to do this thing?
Yep.
All right. Hey, it came back on now. I just thought everybody left all at once. Going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World Champion Series. Jack, we're going to look at, there's another name that I have a problem saying, but I know Zbyszko.
Stanislaus Zbyszko.
Yeah, that guy right there. 4th World Heavyweight Champion. Jack?
Stanislaus Zbyszko defeated Americus, Gus Son-and-Lean, in Kansas City on May 7th, 1914, when he left the United States in October of 1914 and vacated the title to enlist in the Austro-Hungarian army. Zbyszko's real name was Stanislaus Sienkiewicz, and he was born on April 1st, 1879 in Poland. A noted intellectual, he studied music, philosophy, and law while growing up in Vienna, Austria. He also possessed gifted strength, and he joined an athletic club while in college, where he gradually developed an imposing physique. Around the turn of the century, he first encountered the wrestling industry when he used his great power to successfully defeat an experienced grappler at a local circus in Poland. Standing at 5'8", Zbyszko was heavily built, carrying 260 pounds of chiseled muscle, and he was soon recruited to Berlin by a local promoter. Over the next few years, he gradually established himself among Europe's fastest rising Greco-Roman wrestlers while competing in a number of tournaments. And by 1903, health and strength listed him among the continent's leading heavyweights. He eventually took that name of Stanislaus Zbyszko during this time. He was next brought to England by Charles C.B. Cochrane, who was previously Hackenschmidt's manager, and he engaged in a series of prominent encounters against Turkey's champion of the Bosphorus, I believe is how it's said, Kara Suleiman, while performing at the London Pavilion and the Gibbons Music Halls. However, he was soon embroiled in a major controversy when Suleiman was revealed to be Bulgaria's Ivan Ofterhoff, who was actually employed by Zbyszko and Cochrane in one of the earliest public revelations of wrestling's theatrical hoaxes. As Zbyszko started to compete more often in England and the United States, he increasingly began to make the switch to catch-as-catch-can freestyle wrestling. And for several years, he alternated between grappling styles as he traveled between continents and countries. Already billed as Europe's Greco-Roman champion, he was subsequently recognized among the top catch wrestlers when he fought Frank Gotch to a 1 hour draw in November of 1909 in Buffalo, New York. The following year, he scored heralded victories over Dr. Ben Roller and the terrible Turk Yusuf Mahmoud, thus confirming his reputation among the world's elite grapplers, while also setting up a huge second encounter with Gotch at the Chicago Coliseum on June 1st, 1910, for the undisputed World Heavyweight Championship. However, in the rematch, Gotch tricked Zbyszko, jumping him when Zbyszko walked out for what was in Europe the customary handshake, and pinning him in just 6.4 seconds. Zbyszko was infuriated and protested the result, but the match went on and Gotch took the second fall in just under 30 minutes. The performance led many fans to believe the bout was a work, although Gotch would never again face Zbyszko during his career. Despite the controversial loss, Zbyszko was now regarded among the premier wrestlers in the world, and he would then take on the mammoth challenge of India's feared Great Gamma, an undefeated champion who had been unsuccessful in his attempts to lure Frank Gotch into a match. And so, on September the 10th, 1910, Zbyszko faced the Great Gamma in the finals of the John Bull World Championships in London. Within a minute, Zbyszko was taken down and remained in that position for the remaining 2 hours and 35 minutes of the match. There were a few brief moments when Zbyszko would get up, but he just ended back down in his previous position. Crafting a defensive strategy of hugging the mat in order to nullify Great Gamma's greatest strengths, Zbyszko wrestled the Indian legend to a draw after nearly 3 hours of grappling. Though Zbyszko's lack of tenacity angered many of the fans in attendance. Nevertheless, Zbyszko still became one of the few wrestlers to ever meet the Great Gamma without going down in defeat. The two men were set to face each other again on September the 17th, 1910. On that date, Zbyszko failed to show up, and Gamma was announced the winner by default. He was awarded the prize and the John Bull belt, receiving this belt entitled Gamma to be called World Champion. Over the next decade, Zbyszko competed in Europe, while his younger brother, Waldek Zbyszko, established himself among the top stars in the United States. From their Missouri farm, the Zbyszko brothers also trained future legends Johnny Valentine and Harley Race. And Stanislaus had a supporting role in the movie Night in the City, filmed in 1950. On September 23, 1967, Stanislaus Zbyszko died of a heart attack at the age of 88. He was cited by Strangler Lewis as one of the most legitimate wrestlers of all time. In 1983, Stanislaus Zbyszko was inducted into the National Polish American Sports Hall of Fame.
You know, he was an incredible athlete. When you go back and look at it, there's not much because he wasn't world heavyweight champion for very long. He leaves, which he had no other choice. It wasn't like he just said, well, I don't want to be world heavyweight champion. But I don't believe he ever was world champion again, was he?
Yeah.
But I do believe his brother was the world heavyweight champion, which is incredible to think that he never got the chance to be a world champion again, but his brother does. Because I guess he becomes a huge star in the early 1900s. Something that was very interesting was a 3-hour match, which 2 hours and 35 minutes he's held down. I
don't even run a show that runs 3 hours.
I thought to myself,
what exactly did he hold him? Was it held down in many different holds, or was it the same hold?
I think it was the same one. Based on what that story said, he was held in the same hold.
You know, I envisioned the Antonio Inoki, who was it? Muhammad Ali, Antonio Inoki, Muhammad Ali match, where Inoki, stayed in that crowd position throughout the whole match.
It was, that just seems to sit there and watch. Now, We talk about professional wrestling. I believe the place would empty out if you try to do that today.
Yeah.
But I would say the people were just waiting for him to come back out of that.
It would depend on who it was.
That's
If the guys were over, sure. If you had Wrestling 2 and Superstar, maybe. Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee from Memphis, sure. I think they would. I think it depends on who it was. And if you take, Jack Lord against Rodney West, yeah, people would walk out the first 10 minutes.
Including Jack Lord.
Right.
The first hoax that ever happened, people talk about professional wrestling and they talk about this happened in the 1900s. They get bad publicity about being a theater hoax, basically. Because they were doing it in the theaters, they were doing it on the stages at that time.
Were they actually doing it in a wrestling ring?
Yeah, I believe they were. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they would do the shows then like they were big theater shows. And I've got a couple of pictures, and I'll throw them. People will see them. I'll throw them in of some of those events that took place there.
And I think those theaters back then were immensely larger than what we're used to today because there's no such thing as fire codes back then.
Yeah.
So.
Just a very interesting story about him. Like I said, nothing much is said because I believe he stays in the Army. I believe he stays in there almost 8 years. That's a long time. This would have been during like World War II. Would that have been World War II?
World War I.
Would have been World War I, wouldn't it? So, I mean, he was in there for the duration of that. So, he comes out just years later. And by that time, his brother has become the champion a few times. If you've enjoyed this, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page. Go one step further. Hit that notification bell. We'll let you know every time that we put a World Championship series here. We will be doing these on everybody that held the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, this is not the WWF lineage. This is actual it would go more only in the NWA the lineage championship. So there's a lot of some good stories coming up that you're going to enjoy. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again right here on Pro Wrestling Inside Now. Let's see here. Where was we? What was the last thing that I talked about here? Let's see. Luthez. Richard Hood said Luthez was a gentleman in the ring.
Luthez was a gentleman in the dressing room, too.
The only thing about it is he could whip you at any time.
He most certainly could.
And didn't care. He would do it. Michael Barr, I am still here.
Hey.
Well, I thought everybody left there for a while, Michael. I had a chance to talk to Rebel Bill White the other day. He reminisced the days gone by. Yeah, Stuart, I have not had the opportunity to give him a call. Dad and him had some good escapades during the days of Georgia Championship Wrestling, so I'm pretty sure he could tell some great stories of that time. I stay so busy now, and I said I would not do that. I said I also said that my next 12 years are going to be real simple. Well, we see that's not happening.
Yeah, retirement's not working out for me either. I failed at it.
Stuart Kemps, I missed the days he was in, but a few. But we talked a great deal of what was, and really didn't change to the 90s. By then, the talent had found their final homesteads. Yeah, that's. I think that kind of hurt the business to a certain extent. The homesteading of the
homesteading is a killer. Still to this day, it is.
Yeah. A lot of the Negroes were not given the best of training. The cards were tough to promote as we didn't have the talent. There was some truth in that.
I got a little bit of heat over. WWE they laid off several people.
Yes.
And I don't even remember which female it was. They were talking. It was the Iconics.
Yeah.
Rodney's favorite tag.
Yes.
Women's tag team. And they were talking about how they could have done so much with them, that they just didn't have enough time. They were there for 8 years. 8 years. That is a heck of a run. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
Even if you only did 1 or 2 matches, and a lot of these people are, they would do that. They might get a few matches in a year, and you might not see them for a year. Somebody gets hurt, or creative just doesn't have something for you, but somebody may see potential in you, so you still keep drawing a check. That's great, but eventually it comes to the point where you have to produce. And if you're not producing, then you go. And the territories were so much simpler. You knew you were going in, and you were only going to be there 6 months to a year usually.
Yeah.
I mean, you really had to be something special to stay longer.
Yeah, there was a few like Wrestling 2 in Atlanta, but
True.
even that got old. I mean, you do so much, and they'll quit drawing.
Yep.
I used to tell people that they'd say, "Well, I got Tommy Rich on the card."
Well, guys, I see it in the independents all the time. Is they get offended when they don't get booked back on every show. Well, I get offended by people homesteading. I hate that. Absolutely hate it.
Yeah, it's not good for you. And like I said though, you got to have, if you're going to get Tommy Rich, don't think Tommy Rich is going to draw you money because he's Tommy Rich. He may draw you one time, but I always said you got to have something to come back with Tommy Rich. You can't just have Tommy Rich on the card.
The smartest guy in the business that we talked about here just a few minutes ago was Mike Jackson, because Mike knew his worth was 1 to 2 shows. And then, he did everything he needed to do, and he would come in, he would drop that Alabama belt, then he'd come back to your next show, and he'd take the Alabama belt back. He'd have the best matches of the night both times, but he had also showed everybody everything he needed.
Yeah.
So you just couldn't keep bringing him back. There wasn't no sense in it. But he understood that. He knew his worth and his value.
Stuart Kemp, let's see, even though we have moved on, it's that we lost the foundation. You may have performance centers, powerful athletes that can teach you the it factor. I don't know that you can be taught that.
You cannot be taught the it factor. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Let's just get back to the colonics. Colonics never repaired. They never improved, and they never made the way to improvement. I mean, you should be constantly working on your interview skills, promo skills, whatever you're going to call them today.
Yeah.
Always working on them and trying to improve them. I mean, if they give you lines, and it don't matter how bad the lines are, if you're good, you can make those things work if you're good at it. But anyway, the colonics.
I never liked them people. I wanted them to get rid of them when we first started this thing. So I'm glad they got rid of them.
And remember the Mickey James thing where they shut the match off?
Yes.
I believe that down her end. See,
well, you can, a lot of people will blame, a lot of fans will blame creative. They say, well, creative ain't doing nothing good with them. Well, I don't care. If you're given the ball, you take whatever ball it is and you run with it.
That's right. Be the best you can be in whatever position they put you in.
Yep.
And make sure that you can and be able to deliver in that position, whatever it might be.
I think there's a girl named, I think her name is Miranda Tucker. Have you seen her?
Mm-mm.
I don't know why she's not getting a push somewhere. Ben Masters is going to use her on the 8th. Go watch this girl. She does some good stuff. Now I hadn't watched the whole match, okay? So I watched the package. That might be the only thing she can do. But the little package that I seen was very good. She was very good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got into watch wrestling when I moved to Troy, Alabama in 1975. In 70, I watched GCW and Southeastern Championship. Then the CCW 80s got hooked on that, and then the WCW Wrestling King of Sports. Yeah, WCW was pretty good. WCW had the same problem though. They would move from one person to the next. They'd have Ric Flair in it, and then Ric Flair quit, and then they'd have Ole Anderson, and then Ole Anderson quit. Then they'd have Dusty Rhodes was the only one to stay there, but Dusty found out very shortly after he was there. I remember he told me, he says, "I knew that it wasn't going to work, baby." He said, "Them people had no clue," and they did. They did. They just. I had put a card, and in the supporters, they got the card, and it was in I think it was Bettyville, Kentucky, and they put the main event. Now this was the main event. The Cole Twins. And you remember them running the Cole Twins? It was two brothers, and I don't remember now what the main event was, but whatever the main event was, I just remember it wasn't. And so on the thing, you can see us move Cactus Jack and Michael Hayes to the main event. Don't put that as the main event because that's not going to draw you no money.
That's right.
So he moved it. He moved that match and he put that on the poster as the main event: Michael Hayes against Cactus Jack, which still probably wouldn't have drew a lot of money because there was no issue there. Even though Michael Hayes, people didn't know who he was, but there's no issue. Nobody cared. I kind of felt for Michael because I'll tell this quick story. We were sitting in Mississippi one time and we heard. They gave us these little tapes you had to play before the matches, and it would be music for all the wrestlers' music and everything. We heard F this, F this, son of BB. I mean, there's cussing all the way through this thing.
On the PA system going out.
It was going to pass. So wait a minute. What is that? I had to tell who I was talking to. Wait, no, I'm not trying to be rude to you, but what is it? What am I hearing on that thing? And Michael had been in the background. A bunch of people had been in the background, and they were cussing during the time they were putting this tape together and talking, telling the stories, and you could hear their story on the background. I'll never forget that. And we gave Michael down the road for years over that one. No wonder Michael never talks to us. We were pretty mean to him.
Well, he gave us every reason to be mean to him.
This is true. It is interesting that in the 1900s, he would have guessed that it would lead into wrestling through the centuries, 1900s till now, of course, a lot of difference. But wrestling did change, though. Wrestling has always changed. I think that there's going to be a progression of it coming back to, but it's going to take one person that will produce that kind of show, and then they'll all follow it. It's like, at some point, somebody did American Idol, and they go, "Oh my gosh, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my life. It'll never work." You remember the Gong Show? Oh, that thing wasn't no good. We're not going to do it. But they put American Idol on it because of Big Hit. There was people that turned down the Masked Singer. They said that's the stupidest idea I've ever seen. I think it was CBS or NBC. They turned it down. And now look at what the Masked Singer is.
Yeah.
Because it was different. It was unique. It was something different, and somebody didn't want to touch it. If you want to be successful in wrestling, do it. Go out of the box of what's being seen and watch what will happen. It will be a success because you're doing it different than it's been done anywhere else. And that's, look at Lost. Lost was a show that was changed. They changed the way writing was done on television, and it became a super, super hit, and everybody just decided they were going to write like Lost. And, now, let's just give us something to, if you're a 30-minute comedy, let us laugh a little bit. Dan Lang, didn't you guys do a video where Samus beat Wayne Mudd for the world title before dropping it to Joe Stetcher? I don't know. We could have.
Wait a minute. That might have been while you were gone. Let me look at it. We did a world champions thing while you were gone on your vacation.
Yeah.
And you put the thumbs down on us. We were very upset about that.
Yeah. I was traumatized. I didn't go to sleep for like 30 minutes after.
I know, it was just terrible kind of attitude that we had to endure. It was just terrible.
And now I want you to know, now December I may be going on vacation again for a week.
No,
we didn't cover that one. We didn't cover that one. That must have been somebody else, because we started with Orville Brown as the first official NWA champion.
Yeah, the National Wrestling Alliance.
Yeah.
Champion, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about Wayne Munn. We might have talked off air, maybe. But
Michael, I started watching wrestling when I was 2 years old. Michael Barr, some of the 50s matches had no turnbuckles, and the rings were not that well built. Well, some of Ron Fuller's wasn't. So
exactly right. And hey, some of them were just concrete slabs.
Michael Barr, Brenda's lost again. I stay there. I stay in that lost world these days. Robert Grice, I can't think of a current wrestler could carry a 2-hour match anyone will watch. I agree with that.
Randy Orton would be as close as it would come.
And he's doing some stupid stuff with that.
Yeah.
With that.
Bless his heart. That shows you how creative can even take probably the best wrestler in the world today and do anything good with him.
I know. It's just
both those guys are fantastic, but the stuff they're writing for him is terrible. Terrible.
To me, they had Bray Wyatt over as that whatever that.
Yeah, the backwoodsy Louisiana guy. Yeah,
that was tremendous.
Yeah,
but they put him as the Fiend, and it's just stupid.
Well, my daughter, the 11-year-old, the youngest one, she has somehow fallen in love with Alexis, and she thinks she's the greatest thing in the world. Now, she's never watched her wrestle. She don't watch the shows with me, but she came in here WrestleMania night. She said, I want to watch the match. In fact, I kept her, and I usually take them home on Sunday afternoons, and but I kept her an extra night. I had to get up early the next morning. I'm a great dad. But anyway, she came in here, and she started watching that match. Now, that whole match was like 3 minutes. That's it. About 30 seconds into it, she looked over at me and she says, well, Dad, I think I've seen about all this I want to. And left and went to the bedroom and turned her TV on and started watching The Simpsons.
Wow.
So, see, that's what I think is happening today. This reason they're not picking old new wrestling fans up. They watch it and go, what in the crap am I seeing? It's not an athletic contest. They think when they turn wrestling on, they're going to see wrestling.
Yeah.
They think they're not going to see this Fiend, and you know what? Bray Wyatt is too good to be in that position.
Yes,
I just don't get why they put him in that position. I mean, I'm good for him because he's probably got a 10-year contract out of it, but it's just crazy. Let's see. Does anyone here think that today's technology changed old school wrestling and moved it into the wrong direction? I don't think it's the technology that did it.
No, I think it was. The promoters of that time, it was their failure to understand the scope of where technology was going.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly, if AWA and all those others had taken advantage of the expanding markets at that time, instead of being so dead set of we're going to keep doing our local TVs, and if they had actually come together and worked, you know, that there would have been. I don't think Vince would have ever come out of the shell. I really don't, because the wrestling was so great back then, but nobody wanted to work together.
No, they all wanted to be the boss. The egos, you know. Charlie Platt said it best. Egos is what killed the territory.
Right.
Yep.
Michael Jackson. I call him Michael Jackson. Mike Jackson could work and should be the pro wrestler. Is he in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Jack?
No, and I have this is supporter stuff only, so don't go out blasting this, because it may not come true, but it might later on. But I have been approached about being a member of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and one of the things that I have brought up and has brought up by other members, that they never recognized enhancement talent. We recognize the top level performers, as we should there. But guys like Mike and so many others, you know, if it weren't for them, you know, building those guys, going in there and taking those losses, that's what helped. You know, they were the stepping stone up. And to me, Mike Jackson is the head of the list. If anybody's going to go in that Hall of Fame, Mike Jackson should be the first
one. Dan said it was the first wrestling screw. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. But was that Wayne Munn, though? That did that? I know it was Joe Stetcher. Joe Stetcher, it was just his group. And Wayne Munn was the guy that they was going to put the World Heavyweight title on. But that was Ed Strangler Lewis, wasn't it? Ed Strangler Lewis and Wayne Munn. Wasn't he the one that took it wasn't Ed Strangler Lewis.
I don't remember. I've watched an Iconics match since then, and I forgot.
We'll have to go back and look at that. You do so many of these, Dan. You won't. I don't think people. We do a lot of these things every week. well, we do about 6 or 7 different ones a week. So we have to go back and see what we said. But we'll
Yeah,
go back and-
we do, and now Brent does the vast majority of the research here, so I want to give him credit for that. But what we research and what we go over is, we know what we're talking about at the time, but now remembering what we talked about is something entirely different.
This is true. I cannot remember. I don't even remember post. I post so much, I cannot remember the post. I don't even remember somebody will go, hey, I seen so-and-so on there. I didn't even remember. Lance Russell Luthez picture was today. I had done that 2 weeks ago. Didn't even remember that I'd even posted it. And I thought that was a tremendous picture of Lance Russell. A very young Lance Russell, very really young Luthez. If you could have said Luthez was young at the time, he was probably 50 years old then. Let's see. The colonics, whatever Rodney said, new word. Thanks.
Yes.
We'll do a couple more things. We'll have to get off of. AEW seems to be hanging on. Will they be one of the ones to change wrestling? No. And will they fold and be bought up at WWE?
Not with the product they have now. Now they had their best rating, 1.2 million, because they had no opposition. But here's the thing. NXT was drawing 7 to 8, 100,000. And now they moved to Tuesday, so you didn't have that competition last week. So theoretically, AEW should have been close to 2 million, but they weren't. They were 1.2. So, fans are not flocking to them. I mean, there's 1.2 million that are watching them, and hey, I'm glad for them.
Yeah.
But the only way they're going to succeed, as we have mentioned several times, is they have to quit being WWE.
Yeah.
They need to establish their own identity, and cussing is not it.
No.
That's not a good identity to have.
No, it's not going to work for. Richard said when you bring on, hey, I'll be more than glad to bring on Mr. Hughes. I'd love to talk to him. If you talk to him, if he's interested, we'll do it. We'll do it because I've never met Mr. Hughes. I don't
think we met. No, we don't make. Well, he might have been to something else at the time.
I think he was there in WCW.
Now he was there when JYD was there because him and JYD tagged together because I made them matching gear.
He was probably there. I never talked to him. I did not go into the dressing rooms often because they would complain from the time you got there until the time you left, and they were making $1,500, $2,000 a week. And I just went outside and most of the time, Grizzly Smith, Bill Dundee had to look me up to give me the. And I wonder why I didn't really get a job. I didn't really want one, to be honest with you. That time, I was another of them times I said, "I'm done with wrestling. I don't want nothing to do." And I did for a long time at that point as well.
Dan Lang said that we told the story of Stanislaus shooting on Wayne Munn and took the title when he was supposed to do the job. I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we did.
Yeah, maybe that's coming up. Maybe that
might have been that. Wait a minute. Now he's beginning to. Yes, the first double cross. Let me see if that was it.
Yeah, and I do remember us doing that.
Yep, it is. It is called the first double cross,
and
it would said that. Let's see. The Goldust Trio wanted Wayne Munn to be the champion. Munn's fame was from playing football, attracted attention of wrestling stars Ed Lewis and promoter Toots Mott and Billy Sando, who prematurely pushed Munn as the next big star in the sport. Munn won the world title from Lewis on January the 8th, 1985, despite his limited wrestling and shooting ability. That's where it came from.
But because he did it that way, did they actually put him down as champion? Did they make him be? Did they say he was the champion? Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Well, no, they don't. Yeah, they did. It's not 1921.
I believe that sounds right.
Or 1925. Yes, that happens in 1925. And he does come back. He does come back and win the title. 1921, he wins the title. In the 1925, he comes back. Now, he doesn't hold them long. So So he must just be a. Well, no, I don't know. Maybe he held it maybe a year, 301 days. He held the title. So we were wrong about that. He does come back. I thought it was his brother. Well, his brother becomes champion as well. His brother's a champion 1917, and comes back.
The first brothers to hold. So it wasn't the Funks that everybody considers being the first brothers to hold the world championship.
Yeah, it is them. Well, see, that's the stuff you learn. You learn something new every day. All right, guys, we're going to have to get off of here. Let me one more thing, and then we got to get off here. Rodney, where can I find the books that are behind you? I'd like to sit down and read those.
They're right behind me. One's here. It's in the back bedroom. It's in the back bedroom up over here. And that one I can't get to stand up. It fell and hit me in the head before.
If Rodney ever writes a book on his life, it's going to be Smartass, My Life. That'd be the title.
This one's Ole's. This one is Bo James. I'm sure Bo James possibly has it. Ole, I think, still got some copies of it. And I know Bill does. Bill Dundee, he's got a copy of his too.
Yeah, Bill
I think you can get them on Amazon, right?
Yeah, Scott Teal sells a tremendous amount of great wrestling books too.
And I do believe Scott helped with Ole's, it seems like.
He did.
Yeah, Scott did help with Ole's. So there's a place you can get those.
Michael Barr said, okay, Smarty. Also, guys, tomorrow we're going to talk to Andy McDaniel. Yes. He's got a book. And Rodney, if you'll bring that with you tomorrow and put it with you.
You got it.
A book that he wrote about, was it the last show they ever did? And
it was a legend show. It looked like it's at the in Charleston at the county hall.
So him and Mike Mooneyham promoted the show, and he got a book, and our father is all in this thing.
Yep. Johnny Valentine's in there. Wally McDaniel, I believe, Tully Blanchard, and Tully gives, he has his testimony he gives there. I heard it was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to get off of here. And
Tommy Young's there.
Night, and I don't know what we're talking about tomorrow night.
Moolah was there.
Well, we know it's time to get off.
Mae Young was there.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see y'all tomorrow.